I won't approve any paid leave for you. I couldn't believe my ears. You always challenge me. You don't need to come back. Having been told this, even I had reached my breaking point. Are you really sure? She must have been taken aback by my response. Her eyes widened in surprise. Too bad. My name is Nancy, and I turned 28 this year. I've been working at the Candu Corporation for 10 years, making me an experienced employee at a young age. While my family wasn't wealthy, my parents took great care of me. Being an only child, I rarely got new things. Most of my clothes were hand-me-downs from cousins or neighbors. It was rare to get new outfits. Still, I was quite content. Neighbors and relatives showered me with love, and I have fond memories of going on picnics in local parks with my parents during weekends. Perhaps it was out of sympathy, but I'm still close with my cousins and we keep in touch regularly. Growing up surrounded by love, when I was in 12th grade, I served as the student council president and had excellent grades. My class teacher suggested I pursue further studies. Despite being offered a scholarship to college based on my grades, I declined. I'm not interested in going to college. I want to work as a public servant. My parents tried to persuade me otherwise, but considering the costs of living alone, I went against their wishes and became a public servant. I just wanted to relieve my parents of any burden as soon as possible. But then, my father was diagnosed with a severe illness and passed away before I could repay his kindness. I decided to take care of my mother in place of my father, continuing to live with her. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, time flew as I experienced various facets of working life. By the time 5 years had passed, I'd become a respected figure in the office, leading a comfortable life. I've been given the responsibility of training newcomers and occasionally acting on behalf of my boss. Moreover, the bonuses were good, allowing me to give about $600 monthly to my parents. In my personal life, I enjoyed trips with friends, colleagues, and my boyfriend. One day, our manager was transferred and replaced by a new one. This new female manager was said to be the president's daughter. Rumor had it she had been loafing around, relying on her father's wealth. Unable to stand by and watch, the president decided to put her in a responsible position to teach her some life lessons. Only the president and I knew this. Just because she was the president's daughter, many in the company, who knew she was hired due to her background and had little real-world experience, didn't think highly of her. The work environment started getting tense, and the atmosphere was increasingly stifling. And to think the trouble would eventually come my way. It happened when I made her a cup of hot coffee upon her request. What's this? Are you trying to annoy me? I made it just as you told me. She glared at me and threw the hot coffee in my direction. Ouch! What are you doing? Unable to avoid it, I held my right arm that got splashed with coffee and glared back at her. How is this according to my instructions? I said I wanted it warm with extra milk and sugar. I made it warm with 2 glasses of milk and 2 scoops of sugar. It's too hot. And it's common sense to take 4 glasses of milk and 3 scoops of sugar. She again acts as if her own common sense is the world's common sense and imposes her values on others. I'm sorry. I'll make you another one right away. This is why I don't like high school grads. I heard from my father that you're competent and trusted by everyone. I have much to learn. It's only because of the support of everyone here that I seem competent. As she continued with her snide remarks, the pain in my burned arm intensified. My mind was occupied with trying very hard to resist the urge to get away from this place and cool my burnt arm as soon as possible. I was looking forward to meeting you after my father spoke so highly of you. But what a disappointment. I wonder how you won him over. Upon hearing her harsh words, a nearby employee tried to step in and help, but I signaled that I was okay, trying not to get noticed by her. Next, that employee would become the target of her. Those who had been targeted by her so far were mentally driven into a corner and forced to resign voluntarily. And this time, it seems that I've become the target of her. As I was pondering how to resolve the situation, she forcibly grabbed my burned arm and squeezed the burned area tightly. You've got guts to ignore me. Don't think you'll get away with this. I grimaced in pain. Satisfied with my reaction, she released my arm and ordered me to make coffee again. I excused myself and hurried to the pantry to cool the affected area. It sucks. After work, I immediately visited a dermatologist and got prescribed an ointment, but it never completely healed and left a mark, so I dressed in a way that others couldn't see, to avoid causing concern. From that day on, the harassment from her escalated. "What's this document? Nothing but mistakes. Don't take your job lightly." What exactly is wrong with the document? While trying to gauge her mood, I asked, and she threw it at me. "There's no way there could be mistakes in this practice document I did. And yet, to be pointed out like this with a red pen, it's unpleasant." I sighed at the immature behavior of such a grown adult. To be frank, this document clearly needs to be redone due to its inadequacies. You came into this department without understanding anything. I would appreciate it if you could accept the mistakes honestly and acquire knowledge appropriate for a manager. As a trainer, I've been assigning tasks to her, utilizing the experience I had with new employees so far, but nothing seemed to get through to her, a lump of pride. "Don't talk back. You guys should just do everything. I'm the manager, so I don't have to do this kind of stuff." That's not how it works. Besides, this is what the president personally told us. You're desperate to be liked by my father, huh? Weren't you from a fatherless family? I was a little surprised when she suddenly brought up the topic of my family. Furthermore, I had never talked about this with her before. To be precise, you have only your mother now, right? Despite working so hard in a poor family, your father wasn't rewarded and fell ill. We're at work now. Let's stop discussing irrelevant topics. I just thought of having a little interaction. What a boring woman. Even I couldn't hide my irritation when she made fun of my parents. You're getting angry, huh? That's hilarious. My parents are very wonderful and respectable people. You, who know nothing, have no right to say anything. She quickly responded to the slight drop in my voice tone. So that's your true nature, huh? Is it okay to have that attitude with the president's daughter? Maybe I should report to my father about your true nature and how I've been treated badly by you. Feel free to do so. Please correct the test document properly and submit it by today. I'm definitely gonna drive you out. As I turned my back on her, she whispered in a voice only I could hear, but I ignored her and returned to my seat. Afterward, her sarcasm continued, but I managed to get her to learn the basics. It's still a long road ahead. Even though they were basics, it included minor things like detailed computer operations and types of documents. I sat on a bench installed on the office rooftop drinking canned coffee during the break to soothe my exhausted body. While thinking about my future, I suddenly received a call from an unknown number on my smartphone. Hello? Is this Nancy? This is Saveview Hospital. Your mother was urgently transported here, but she's in a critical condition. Can you come right away? My mind went blank, and I couldn't remember much afterward. I left an early leave notice on her desk first and caught a taxi to the hospital. Upon arriving at the hospital and explaining the situation at the reception, a nurse guided me to where my mother was. Mom, this can't be true. There lay my mother, with a beautiful and gentle expression, asleep. According to the doctor, my mother had collapsed at her workplace. By the time she arrived at the hospital, they were in a state of believing in miracles. Indeed, my mother's heart wasn't strong since the past. Yet, the symptoms were stable, and there were no issues during regular checkups, but the mental strain since my father passed away might have affected her, perhaps. For a time, I sobbed, hugging my mother tightly. After coming home with my mother, as the funeral date has been set, I called female manager to ask for my first ever paid leave. I'm sorry for leaving early today and causing trouble. My mother just passed on, so could I take about a week off for the funeral and all the other stuff that comes with it? Oh, so that's why you left early when I wasn't around? It was an emergency with my mother. Her cold and harsh tone hit hard, considering how down I was. I won't approve any paid leave for you. I couldn't believe my ears. In the 10 years I've been here, I've never taken a day of paid leave. So what? I've contributed so much to this company, so shouldn't I be able to take paid leave to say goodbye to my mother? You always challenge me. You don't need to come back. Having been told this, even I had reached my breaking point. "Are you really sure? I'll take you up on that offer." She started ranting, but I unilaterally cut the call without a second thought. The funeral went smoothly. I couldn't just sit grieve, and I kept myself busy, handling various tasks and sending out thank you notes to those who'd been so kind. Took my mind off things for a bit. She tried reaching out multiple times, but I ignored every attempt. A bit later, I got a call from the president, so I made my way to the office after 2 weeks. I walked straight to the president's office. On my way, I bumped into 2 coworkers who consoled me. "I'm sorry, but I'm going to the president's office first." Their kindness made me feel a bit better. "It's Nancy. May I come in?" After knocking and asking permission, I was let in promptly. "Hey there, been a while. Heard you've been out of touch for 2 weeks. Doesn't sound like you." My apologies. You see, I laid out everything, not sugarcoating how she had been treating other employees and myself. Hearing negative stuff about his own daughter must have hurt him, but the president listened to every word. I apologize for my daughter's actions. To be honest, my wife and I spoiled her, and this is the outcome. No worries. I think my parents must have felt the same way as parents. Seeing my awkwardness, the president smiled gently. "Nancy, you're truly a wonderful lady. My daughter's situation was my judgment error. I've spoken to those who've resigned in the past 2 weeks. I can't apologize enough for that." To the best of my knowledge, this was the first time I'd ever seen the president looking so troubled. "Ever since you stopped coming to the department my daughter works in, things have gone haywire. Just the other day, the entire team staged a group protest." Really? I had no idea things had escalated that much. "So, what are you going to do about it?" The president wore a sad expression for a moment but quickly returned to the person I knew. "So I need your help. It's easy for me to have my daughter resign, but that alone won't satisfy all employees. Can you help us?" Looking into the president's earnest eyes, I made up my mind. "Understood. I'm more than happy to assist." And so, the sanctions against her began. "Hey, how long do you plan on taking time off?" The exasperated female manager finally reached out. "Wasn't it you who told me not to come in?" "It's strange, I'm just following your orders." "Don't give me that. We're in chaos here. Get to the office now." Reluctantly, I changed into my work clothes and headed to the office. However, there wasn't a single employee present. It was eerily quiet, just like working on a weekend. "It's a weekday today, right? Feels weird." It was when I muttered to myself in an empty office. I heard yelling from a woman and the sound of something being thrown from my department. Peeking cautiously inside, I saw her causing a ruckus. "What's going on?" I called out from behind her. She swiftly turned and grabbed at me. "It's all your fault. Ever since you stopped coming, everyone else followed suit. Now I can't get in touch with anyone. How will you make up for this?" "I'm not quite following. Can you please not shift the blame?" I calmly told her. She let me go and pushed me away. Such an infuriating woman. Even my father won't help. What's going on? How long has it been since everyone stopped coming? "Half a day. Because of that, I've been handling calls which I've never done, and I have no clue what to do anymore." The slumped figure of her was pitiful. Her hair was a mess, and the nail polish that she wouldn't remove despite numerous reminders was now chipped. She must have hung her jacket somewhere. There were noticeable frays here and there on her jacket. Seeing her, who had always acted like a queen, now in such a state, I couldn't help but laugh. "Serves you right." "What did you say?" "This is on you. What did you think of everyone? No one's going to follow someone who just waves their power around without any real skills." As I firmly told her, she approached with her face turning red. "Say that one more time. You really want to be banned from the company?" "Well, I'd like to stay if you resign." "Well then, you're fired. I'll be taking over this company." "What a pity for you." "Too bad." She was wearing an eerie smile, and for some reason, she had a triumphant look on her face. I answered, "All right." It was a short time, but thank you very much. It must have been an unexpected reaction. She had her eyes wide open in surprise. "You do realize you're fired, right?" "Of course. Now I should pack up my things." I carefully made my way to my desk, avoiding the papers scattered on the floor. Once there, I started pulling out stuff from the drawers. "Wait. Are you really quitting?" "Yes, why?" I asked, tilting my head. "Well, shouldn't you at least finish up today's work?" Her earlier confidence had disappeared, and she seemed desperate. "Do you know that it's illegal to reject a properly justified paid leave request without a valid reason?" "Huh? It's a violation of labor laws, you know. It's mandated by law." Her face turned ashen. She was clearly in turmoil, but I continued. "We're all human. I understand there are compatibility issues. But that doesn't mean you should drive people into a corner. You're unfit to be a manager. Makes me wonder what your folks are like." "Who the hell do you think you are? Insulting my parents like that? You're not getting off easy." "Well, you insulted my parents too, so you're not getting off easy either." She, shaking with rage, tried to put on a brave face. "Our worlds are entirely different. Don't lump me with you. You're really despicable. I heard you said the same thing and drove those who left into a corner." "That's right. They treated me like I was worthless, so I drove them into a corner as far as I could. Felt so refreshing when they were gone." I sighed deeply, shifting my gaze to the corridor. Curious, she followed my gaze, muttering, "Father? Why are you here?" There stood the president. As the president stepped into the department, he walked directly to her. "Father, there's been a misunderstanding." "No need for explanations. I've got evidence of your deeds." "No, they just envied me for my skills and set me up. I did nothing wrong." The president lashed out at her, who tried to justify her actions. "You idiot. Because you're so incompetent, I was hoping the competent employees would reform you. Yet under your lead, in the past few months, our performance plummeted and even caused losses to the company." "But you made me a manager, so that means you had faith in me, hadn't you?" "I promise I'll meet your expectations this time." "No. If I didn't give you a position, you'd have run away." The president's imposing demeanor made her buckle. "I never even thought of letting you take over the company. This time for sure, I'll transfer you to the countryside to reform you from the ground up. Please, have mercy." "Look who's talking. We'll get constant updates from your new location. And the folks there are pretty reliable, so brace yourself." Turning pale, she lay on her back, crying and laughing hysterically. I chirped, "Too bad." With a bright and cheerful voice, I said that to her. Later that day, without anyone to see her off, the former female manager left the company. The next day, the employees, enjoying the day off declared by the president, returned to work jubilant. With the departure of the former female manager, peaceful days were restored, and smiles returned to the employees' faces. Meanwhile, the former female manager started from scratch in a rural town where there were no conveniences or entertainment. There, her family's influence didn't matter, and she was strictly schooled by her colleagues every day. As the days passed, she began to change, and finally, she started to speak respectfully and became receptive to feedback from others, as reported by the president. The most surprising thing was receiving an apology call from her. At first, I listened to her, but at the end of the call, she begged, "I've reflected enough. I want you to ask the president to let me return." Of course, my answer was no. I ignored further calls and blocked her number. The president personally contacted those who had resigned due to her and invited them back. As a result, the company's performance quickly recovered, even surpassing its previous state. As for me, I was sitting in the seat of the manager, which became vacant after she left. When the president personally appointed me, everyone in the department was even happier than I was. While the managerial job is tougher than I imagined and I am a bit overwhelmed by my sudden career move, with the support of the employees, I am doing well. Having been both physically and mentally hurt, especially with burns, I have been compensated with settlement money deducted from the former female manager's salary, which has been added to my own pay. Thanks to that, my life has become very comfortable. Recently, my boyfriend of 2 years proposed to me, and I am over the moon. We are expecting a child next year, and both of us are excited. Even though I have just entered my second trimester, we are already fully prepared for the birth.